Guys, testing one, two, three. You know how I do it. Alright, well, thank you and welcome to another exciting edition of my channel. And I hope that everybody's doing fine. I hope that you're well with your families. I hope that everything's going well. I thought that I'd launch another aspect of my channel for C++ game programming when we use vanilla C++, and we can also look at a little snippets of Unreal code and compare that. So what we're going to do with this part is it's going to be like a course. You're going to have some quizzes to do. You will have also some reading assignments to do as well. So this is the first introductory one, so it's not going to be that hard or that intensive, but as we progress, we will slowly start to build a base for our knowledge and understanding for C++. And this course is not just for game programmers, but also for anybody who wants to learn C++. Okay guys, let's get started. Let's have some fun with C++. Alright, course prerequisites. Let's check it out. The first thing, guys, is I want to make sure that you have an understanding of OOP, object-oriented programming. If you don't have an understanding of it, that's fine. You can still watch this course. We will talk about it, but I suggest you do some reading on your own about it, just to have a clearer and better understanding about it. Let's move on to the next one. Maybe you already know another language, so this is probably good if you do. I hope that you know another language, that it makes it really good for you to come in here and learn C++. However, if you don't, that's fine. Okay? Another thing is to understand how the IDEs work. Not just everything about the IDE, just a little bit about how it works, how to debug a program, how to get around the source files. If you don't understand that, then maybe you should go and find a little tutorial about that and then come back here and watch this. However, I can walk you through some of the stuff that we need for the course. For this course, you don't need to learn it in depth, so I just wanted you to learn that extra knowledge on your own. So let's move on. Well, here's some facts that you'll need to know about this course, or that you'll need to do. 40 minutes a day of practice. Okay, so remember, every day try to find 40 minutes to learn or practice C++, and remember, always learn the old with the new. Alright, the next one, try to memorize key concepts about C++. Learning about syntax, that just comes over time, but key concepts, that is when you need to sit down and try to memorize them. Even if they're boring, try to memorize them. Try to have an understanding of what they actually are, because it's going to help you out a lot in programming, and it's going to help you further your career. The next thing, maybe I will put some coding challenges for you to do within the IDE, not Unreal, but put some coding challenges for you to do. They'll be quite simple, but I want you guys to have practice with solving problems, because as programmers, that's what we do. We solve problems. We see a problem, we solve it. So let's begin with talking about section 1. In this course, I want to focus on beginners, but if you're a pro, maybe this is just a good way for you to brush up on something that you didn't understand. We will get a little deeper, but not now. So I do want to focus on beginners. The next thing is later down after this introduction, we're going to be talking about variables. So that's another thing for us to look at and pay attention to. So maybe you can do some extra reading on what variables are, because it's going to be a big part of this course and I want you to understand it. The next thing is also understanding the standard library that C++ has. It's basically just pre-written code that we can use to make our lives a lot easier. And then the next thing is that we're going to understand from a basic premise how a game loop works with branching, and branching using truth and if statements, more or less, but we're going to learn about that as well. So let's dive in. Why do you want to use C++? Is my first question to you. What's the use for it? I mean, do you just want to learn it because you want to learn to be a programmer, or you want to make an application, or you want to learn Unreal Engine? Whatever you're trying to do with C++, go ahead and just try to write it down now and see what you want to try to do with it. Write down your goal. Go ahead. Write down your goals. I want to learn C++ because I want to be a programmer. I want to learn C++ because I want to learn how to build games and applications. So go ahead and write that down. Write down your goal at the first start of this course, and then hopefully by the end we can kind of guide ourselves to getting to that goal. So why? Why do we use C++? Well, it's clear as day here. We use it for performance. It's fast and it's perfect for building applications or building games. So you have to keep this in mind, is why we're using it. It may not look pretty at sometimes, but we use it for performance. Okay, the next one is that it is the standard language of AAA gaming. Most studios that you go to, you will see C++ in some shape or form. And of course, like I said before, it's used for performance. Here's the bad part about everything that we're learning. There's some pitfalls in using C++. It's been around, and some of the legacy code is hard to read. So it makes it really, for a beginner to get in there and try to read some legacy code, it makes it really confusing for them. But I'm here to say that with a little bit of training, a little bit of knowledge, I think you can do it. Sometimes people don't write clean looking C++ code, and that just goes around because of bad habits of just writing code for them to only understand. I think sometimes people just forget that they're writing code for others, and others should be able to read their code. So make sure that you're writing your code clean and simple. You don't have to make it very convoluted. Just make it clean and simple. And in this course, we're going to learn about how to make clean C++ code. Another thing, memory management just scares people because it's about managing and deleting pointers. And people sometimes they get afraid about this stuff. However, there are APIs out there like Unreal Game Engine that has its own garbage collection that does use smart pointers, so you won't be using that delete key. So we will be looking and diving into managed and unmanaged memory as well, because it's kind of the core thing of why C++ is so amazing. So let's move on. So C++ comes from the C family language, and it's kind of got that C flavor. However, the nice thing about C++ is that it also has nice capabilities that are a little bit better. So it's not to say that C++ is superior than C. It just depends on the use case that you're using it. So let's just move on. So there's this thing called the ISO, International Organization for Standardization, and it kind of they kind of play a critical roles in defining how the language should work. So this is like what sort of things should be working in C++. They define this. The ISO basically defines a collection of files called the standard library. And the standard library is what I was talking about before, is that code that was already pre-made. So why is this important? Because the standard library can make, like I said, your life easier. It's got basic fundamental code that we can use to get started with, like strings, integers, all that kind of nice stuff. So let's move on. So let's code. All right, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open up your IDE and you're going to make a console C++ application. The next thing you're going to do is, I've called mine Game Start because it's the project name, But later on, when you start getting better at this stuff, you want to make sure that your names are called well. And I put my solution and my project in the same file. So just to let you guys know that. So you can see it right here. Then you just click create. So we're over here, and here's something to look at. It just has include right here. Okay, iOS stream in main std out game starting std ndl and return 0. Now all this stuff can look kind of confusing and kind of threatening, but it really isn't. Let's break it down. There's something called a preprocessor, and that preprocessor needs something to start with. So what we do is we have this include over here, and like I said before, we're including these classes or these headers from the we're including the header from the iOS stream so we can use this library. Okay, so the main is basically the main function, where other functions that we will create from other classes will go in here and we will execute it. It's just like making a cake. Think about it that way. std out. Let's hold on one second. Let me flip the screen here. But before I get to explaining all that, let me just go back to the last view. So one more thing is that the std is actually talking to the standard library from the header, and this is actually an operator right here that is telling the cout to print game starting onto the screen, because this is a string literal right here. And so this one, just think of this one as when you end the line, you press enter. So if we put another one here, right, another line, it would just go underneath it, and it would keep going underneath it because we have this. And this return 0 just means that our program returned successfully. And in the next slide, I will be talking a little bit more in depth about that stuff. So let's move on. All right, so we're going to click play right here. We're going to click this green arrow, and bam, congratulations. You made your first program. Game starting. Congratulations, guys. You made it past the first part. So let's move on and let's break it down. Okay, so include iOS stream. It's basically a header used for calling code from the standard library. Okay, so basically, I use the thing. I use like this kind of question is, do you like cooking? And what do you mean by that? Well, think about the main as something where you put all your ingredients inside of. So if you have a cake, you're gonna need to put all your ingredients inside of there to make it, right? So think about your main like that. You take all your ingredients, all the functions outside, all your classes, everything, and you just stuff it in the main and let it execute one by one. Well, this is the main entry of all the C++ programs right here. Okay, so STD, it really just means standard library, and think about it like, STD, like this part right here, as when it tacks on with the scope resolution operator. Think about it like as a friend that you're trying to call, but you can't call them until you put that scope resolution operator in there, and then it calls to this because it's actually outside of the scope. So it's not inside the main, so we need some way to call into it to get this cout code so that it can show up. So that's how we get this string literal to print out, because this is for output, okay? And then there's one more thing that you should probably do a little bit of research about global variables and the scope resolution, okay? Do a little bit of research about that, okay? Because there's also something interesting about it. Because if you want to access also global variables, you want to access those global variables, or you want to distinguish which ones are which, you can use the scope resolution operator. Okay, so go do some research about that and then come back and maybe think about this more. I'm not going to put too many hints about it right now, but I just want you to think about it in your head. I don't want to spill the beans on this because it's a little bit too much right now. But let's look at cout. It's just the standard output stream, so we can see our output. That's all it is. And then we can see our output happening, and with this, so SCD cout, we can see our output happening. Now, what is this thing right here? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's also called an output operator, and basically it's part of this where you can these all connect. So the STD, and then the scope resolution, and then cout, then the output operator of what kind of output you're putting, and then this right here just closes it with the semicolon. Okay, so remember that the semicolon needs to close all your programming lines, or else you're going to error out. Okay, and also you can put \n instead of this to create a new line. But NDL is also part of the standard library, just so you guys know that. Okay, and obviously return zeros. What I said before is that it will return it will return your stuff without, and so you know that there's like no issues. Okay, so just go ahead and manifest this in, and then the next part we will just go back and review what we learned in the next section. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the example that I said was if you put \n, you could create a new one, or NDL, and you wrote it twice, you could create it twice on two lines, and you see as it shows up here, and I did that example. Alright, so just a quick brief look at Unreal Game Engine. This is a header that I was talking about, and we can go back to, we won't get into depth about headers, but basically here's the A character, here's a class, and just think of classes like your nouns, person, place, or thing. And this is just a little sample code of Unreal, but look at this word class, and then also look at move forward, this function right here. Okay, now watch this. I'm gonna point, and bam, do you see it right here? It's on this CPP file. Okay, and we're gonna get into more detail about what this CPP file is later, but just so you can see it, it's on the CPP file, and the scope resolution is here. Wow, that's great, because it's actually pulling that information from that header file that we saw before onto the CPP file. Okay, so the header file is kind of a place where you declare stuff, and then the CPP file is where you I'm sorry, it's been a long day. It's funny, but the header file is basically where you set all your variables up, right? Your functions, everything, and then you need to kind of create them, or create the functionality in the CPP file. So that's basically the gist of it. So I just wanted you to see in real life code, or real world code, that the scope resolution is quite used a bit, especially in Unreal Engine. So it's going to be something that you need to go over with. Okay, so let's look at this quiz, and I hope you can do it. So look at the quiz, pause the screen, take some notes down, and go on the internet and see if you can find the answers to these questions. Okay, and then the next one I will go over it again. Alright, congratulations, you made it. You wrote your first program. Now review what you've learned for the next section, and don't forget to read books or internet blogs on concepts that we discuss. Try to actually read 10 pages of C++, of any C++ book you find interesting. Maybe 10 pages a week, or if you're a monster, 10 pages a day, and just try to increase it. And don't forget to take notes. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this course, and I hope that this course is going to help you to be a better C++ programmer and not be so intimidated by C++, whether you're an artist, whether you're a blueprint programmer, whether you're somebody who's never coded before. This is the course for you. So I hope that you can enjoy it, and if you like it, go ahead and hit that like and hit the subscribe button, because we're just going to take it further. We're going to get deep and dirty with C++, but again, I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible, and I'm not going to try to make it convoluted, so that at least when you walk away, you'll have a better understanding of C++, and it won't look so intimidating. But the first thing for you to do is to try to understand what's going on with C++ and try to break it down. Like anything in life, you want to break things down. All right, guys, this is your boy Stramasta, and I just want to say that have a great day, take care of yourself, love your family, and thank you for watching my channel. And thank you for everything you guys have done. We are taking off, and it's going to be a great ride. All right, guys, have a good day. Bye.